finally feel like I got some of my reading love back. I read 9 books in November, which feels a lot better than October's. I read 4 books in October. I'm actually gonna go over those in this video as well just at the end because I never did an October wrap up because I only read 4 and I just didn't have a lot to say about any of them. But in November, I had some reading time again. I read a total of 3,534 pages, which averages out to be 117 pages per day. The average page count of a book would have been 397 pages. My most read genre was fantasy romance. I gave out 1 5-star, 5 4 stars. So that feels really good in my opinion. 3 3 stars, and then 0 2 stars and 0 1 stars. That's been a trend for my reading this year, and I would like to keep that trend going into the new year. I would like to be very little 2 and 1 stars, really DNFing things. I read 4 fantasy romance, 2 fantasies, 1 thriller, and 2 sci-fis. Let's get right into the reviews. I'm excited to talk about these. The first book that I read actually was Vessalus by Courtney Wims. This was a letdown for me. I have been wanting to read this book since I heard about it when it was indie and it was traditionally picked up, and in the traditional editing, it got reworked. So I knew that I wasn't allowed to read it. Not that he wasn't allowed, but like the author stated that you wouldn't understand things in book 2 if you didn't read the edited version. So I waited and I waited. Once it came out traditionally published, I picked it up. There are aspects of this that I liked, but at the end of the day, I just feel like lots of this fell flat. I'm actually not sure that I'm going to continue on in this series. I think it's going to be a decision I make next year when the second book comes out, and if I hear good things about that second book. This one follows our main character, Nazara, who is an heir to the kingdom of Zar, and she can perceive spirits. The back of this sounds like she is entering a deadly tournament and her betrothal. She's determined to win without succumbing to the addictive spirit magic she channels or taking a life in the duel ring. But finding herself outmatched, Nazara must face her fear of power and team up with Dagon, an enemy as half ghost and half charm, all to survive the tournament. To me, I thought that they were like both in the tournament, which is like my bad expectations for this. And like, yes, the second paragraph in this is about Dagon, how he was murdered, but they say he phases between his human and spirit form, so I just still thought he was in the tournament, which is my bad. He's not. He's essentially this dead soul that she can see and she could latch onto if she wanted to. I feel like he didn't really help her win the tournament, and I felt like this was very much set out to be like reluctant allies to lovers, but he was just kind of there for a lot of it in my opinion. I really didn't need his POV at all. It was more interesting to me because I got lots of the world building, but also it was very info dumpy. He just kind of like went places and like read people's memories, and then we would get information from those memories. My biggest complaint about this was how murky the world building was, which really sucks when you have a whole literal POV that is literally just set up to give us world building and info dump to us. So the fact that I was still confused about how things worked, there was a lot going on. There's like the spirit magic, but then there's like different types of magical races, and they all have like different cultures and stuff, and there's like a lot of politics within everything that like I just struggled to like grasp everything. I feel like we were just spit out little facts about everything when I would rather us spend more time getting to know one thing in depth and then moving on to the next thing. That's I think what I love about a series, is that we can start establishing things in book 1, but you still have to give me like good information about the one thing. Like we could have focused on like spirits and stuff in this one, and then in book 2 focused a little bit more on like the corruption side. With no spoilers, also, I just feel like I wasn't attached enough to characters to care about what happened. I kind of wish we had seen characters before things happened to them, so that I could have been attached to them, because really I just hated most of these characters. I do think there was beautiful nuance in this conversation about loving people who have done bad things, and that 2 things can be true. You can think this person is horrible and you can still love them because they're your family. There is a lot of nuance in good people doing bad things and bad people doing good things, and like all of that within this story. There is a chance for me to continue this. There definitely is. I'm not writing the series off, but I'm not like rushing to continue it. So this was a 3-star for me. After that, I read What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller, and I give this one 3 stars as well. This one follows a world where women are more powerful than men. They're innately more powerful than them. They have this ability, they're like God blessed, to when in a fight overpower men. And we follow this society where there is this tradition of kidnapping a royal man from another country to bring to be your husband at home if you are royalty. The thing is, this whole book was written, there's like a little author's letter and author's note in here, because our main character was tired of like microaggressions and hearing the horrendous acts that men did to women throughout our society. So there's a lot of fury in this. There's a lot of women rage that I think is so valid, and I loved reading that aspect of it. I actually really liked all the fantasy aspects of this. My biggest problem with this story is that it is a romantasy. I got it in the Owl Crit Romantasy book box. If you want to see my full thoughts, I have a whole video where I read their 3 picks from 2025. But for this one specifically, since it's romantasy, I'm supposed to root for a couple. I'm supposed to root for this romance, and I personally could not, because the innate building blocks of their relationship were grooming in my opinion, and I just couldn't buy into that. However, I wish this was just a fantasy and then I didn't have to worry about the romance, and I could have just been like, yeah, this is a critique on everything that's happened, and I think that that would have worked a whole lot better for me. Just I couldn't find myself actually rooting for the romance at the end of this like you are supposed to. It just felt like it missed the mark for me with like the whole conversation that we were having in this story. A very surprising win for me was A Forbidden Alchemy. This was another one I read for that Owl Crate video. I was expecting to hate this. I actually almost never unboxed this. I almost just sold it right off the bat because I had heard not good things about it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I can't wait for the second book. I'm really excited to read more. We're following a world where everyone could have alchemy in them, and as a kid you are sent to the capital to go through an alchemy test. We follow 2 kids who bond that day, and they stumble upon a secret that the rich are keeping the alchemy for themselves. It is a rigged test, and if you come from a peasant town, if you come from a poor place, you will not have alchemy in your blood, but really it's just a rigged test, and things spiral from there as she ends up becoming an alchemist and he doesn't, and there's like a rebellion brewing in their later years, and it's very nuanced. I think I really loved this. I love like the mining town setting. I really enjoyed a lot of this. I can't wait to read the second book. I really did enjoy this. I have not a lot to say right now, but I feel like I was just raving about this a lot in my vlog for it. I really just enjoyed the rebellion. I enjoyed how we learned about things. We spent time in a school setting, we learned some stuff, and then we got real world action in this war, and I liked that. I really loved the mining town. I can't lie. That was like my favorite part of this. I loved just learning everything about how it worked and what was going on, and I loved this morally gray man. I thought he really felt morally gray to me because we see him like beat some people up. We see him do wrong things. We hear stories about the things he's done, but we understand that they're all for the right actions and the right reasons. So I really did enjoy this one. And then I started my Goodreads video and I picked up another alchemy story, Alchemy of Secrets. This one shocked me. I was not expecting to like this at all, to be honest. This follows our main character who is taking this like random lore class that doesn't even show up on your syllabus. And it's about like magical things in our world. Like, what if our myths, our legends, our lores were correct? What if you could go to a hotel and make a deal with the devil? What if you could stumble across the Loch Ness Monster? What if you found this map that took you to Treasure Island? Like, what if all of these things were true? I don't want to say much more than that because I feel like experiencing this story on your own is like very unique and fascinating. It to me was very Warehouse 13 coded, if you like that show. I just liked the idea of them going to like find these objects that have magical abilities and then these things like backfiring on them at times and creating more problems, and it just being almost like this little adventure of magical lores and legends and myths, and I really did love this. I actually ended up starting a Eureka rewatch so that then I could watch Warehouse 13 because I loved them both so much. Alchemy of Secrets was 4 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I need a second book in this. It did read like a standalone to me, but when the second book comes out, I could decide to pick it up. And then I read a thriller. I read Famous Last Words, which was so unique to me. We follow our main character who wakes up one day and she has this weird feeling that something's wrong, and when she goes to work, the police show up and they say that there is a hostage situation and that her husband is involved, and she's like, oh my god, is he okay? What's happening? And they're like, well, he is the person that stole these hostages. Like, he is the bad person in this scenario. And she's like, that's not true. There's no way that that could ever happen. And then this whole like mystery unfolds of like what is going on, how he got there, what's going down. I give this one 4 stars. It was so close to a 5 star for me. I just felt like the pacing in the third quarter slowed down too much, and then the last quarter was so quick. I kind of wish that was more even. The first part definitely like we're at a cheetah pace, we're going for it, and then it slows down for the whole book, but I think that made sense. It's just the third quarter was so slow and I was just like waiting for things to unravel a little bit more during that. So that's what kept it from a 5-star for me. But I really enjoyed this. I will highly recommend it as like a mystery thriller blend, and I will definitely be reading more from this author in the future as well. And then I read The Compound, which I gave 3 stars. This was just a unique premise. It's a very much literary. It was in the sci-fi category for like the Goodreads Choice nominees, but I do think it reads a little more literary than sci-fi, but I understand the sci-fi elements in it. This follows our main character who goes into like a reality competition, and this whole book is just a critique on capitalism and commentary on reality TV and things like that. It is very slow, very character driven. I wanted to know a lot more about like the outside world. I was equally bored and intrigued all at once in this, and I loved that you could literally see reality TV things in this. Like they would do a competition and I would be like, who in their right mind would do that? But because I've watched so much reality TV, I was like, oh right, this season of this show, they did that exact same thing. Like they pulled so much from reality TV and I enjoyed that, but I did really struggle with the characters. They were very flat in my opinion. I think it was strategic on the author. I personally felt like it felt like you were supposed to self-insert people you know. They were supposed to be just like these stereotypes, these like empty bodies for people that fit that kind of category of a person and that kind of category of person that goes on reality TV. But because of that, because we didn't get any backstory on them, because they weren't allowed to talk about that, I just felt myself not connected, and I think a story like this hits a lot better for me when I connect to characters. So I just didn't end up loving this one, but I gave it 3 stars. My 5-star of the month was The Merge, which was also in the sci-fi category. This is more of a sci-fi thriller. This hit hard. This does follow 2 characters as they go through the merge process, and so our world has overpopulated. We do not have enough resources for our world anymore, and so we need population to go down. And so they have figured out a way, and it's by merging 2 people into one body, and there's a whole process for it. There's a lot of fighting of your rights in this story because they're forcing people into this. If you go into the prison setting, you're forced into it. You don't get a say, like blah 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 blah. There's so much of like how this is going to become mandatory, and just like how propaganda and things get you within the story, and I just like really loved that. I feel like I had so many existential crises while reading this book, and it was incredible and amazing, and it really just brought out thoughts. It was very thought-provoking for me. But we follow 2 characters as they go through a special merge. Essentially they're in a new test to see if merging will help with medical diagnosis, and so there's a bunch of people who have a bunch of things going on with them. One is pregnant, because you're not allowed to be pregnant in this world anymore without like going through proper channels and stuff. One has cancer, but the one that we're following is a daughter and her mother has Alzheimer's. And honestly, the Alzheimer's parts of this really hit me hard, and I'm not gonna go into details. I did that in the vlog and there was definitely some almost tears shed, but like it was really well done and felt very compassionate. And yeah, I just really enjoyed enjoyed is the wrong word, but I was really appreciative of that storyline in this and how it affected both characters. But they're going through this to see if when they merge, if the mother will no longer have Alzheimer's while she's inside her daughter's body, and both minds are supposed to still be in that body. Like it's a whole like merging of 2 people into one. You're not getting rid of either or. This was so good. I literally, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, I should reread this because just it hit me so hard, and I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of John Mars, pick this up. The social commentary mixed with the sci-fi and the thriller aspects really remind me of his stuff, so definitely pick this one up. I really enjoyed it and I need more people to read it. And then I picked up Red City, which I left out to my other house, so that sucks because now I'll have to put a pop-up, and I hate doing that. This one I gave 4 stars. I was unsure about my rating, but as I've sat on it, I really do think it deserved 4 stars. Another alchemy story. There's a trend happening here. In this one, we follow our main characters who meet as children. They become childhood friends with some feelings for each other. They both join opposite crime syndicates, and then they're on the opposite sides of like a war happening in their adult lives. I think I wanted more from the crime syndicate part, specifically in part 1. Part 1 of this is them as children, and it has really not a lot to do with the crime syndicates. There's like elements of alchemy in it, but not a lot of like what you would expect from like crime lords and things like that in a crime family. But you do get the darker, grittier parts as you get more into this story. My biggest complaint was that I felt like the male POV was not necessary. I felt like we could have just had this story from her POV and had more moments with him that made me feel like their friendship was real, versus I just felt like he was a POV that existed to just be like, yeah, they like each other, and to easily see the other side and see that both sides are wrong and both sides are right in matters and how decisions affect both sides. But I feel like I just like didn't care, and there's so much going on and things were just like stretched too thin that I really struggled with side characters too. I really liked our female character. I thought she was really well developed. And then there's a side character named Will who I thought was the best written character. Like I feel like he was really well developed because we spent a lot of time with him and we learn his backstory and stuff. I feel like in the male's POV, he had a lot of friends, but we never really dived deeper into them. We didn't learn like why they were there and like things like that. And I really wish we would have. I just struggled with connecting to characters in this one and then caring about things later on. But I loved the story here on capitalism. Again, there's a theme happening in a lot of my reading lately, and like just greed in general and how money does not make you happy. But then also both our main characters are immigrants. They come from immigrant families and they have different situations. He was kind of like stolen from his family, and her mother came here with her and just like worked really hard. And I really liked that aspect, and seeing a story told from the eyes of an immigrant and how they struggled in our society and how America is supposed to be this like happy American dream and how it fails in some aspects and how it doesn't in others. And I just thought it was very well nuanced and really well done, and it felt like a unique take for me, and I would love to read more with this kind of take in the fantasy sphere specifically. However, I think it's funny, I also marked this as fantasy. I only ever see this marked as fantasy. It was in the fantasy nominee on Goodreads, but I personally think it reads very much like a romantasy. Their POVs revolve around each other and their relationships quite a bit, not necessarily around the world building and the plot line and things like that. Like the plot is more about them together, which is what makes me feel like fantasy romance romantasy over fantasy. So just know that going in. And then lastly, I've read Princess of Blood by Sarah Hawley. I honestly do not have a lot to say about this one. I like this one. I actually ended up giving it 4 stars, which is also the rating I gave the first book. I just think if you liked the first book, you're gonna like this. It has a little bit of middle book syndrome. We're getting a lot more politics in this, but it felt reminiscent of the first one. It felt the same for me. It had the same pacing, everything like that. I did struggle a little bit with the 2 men at first, but I do think this book does a really good job of reminding you everything that happened, and I remembered things so quickly. I think because this story is so familiar but also unique that it like stands the test of time in my brain for me. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I don't have a lot to say about it. It really just is what it is, and I think with second books specifically, I tend to feel that way. I will have a vlog coming out with this where you'll see my thoughts more as like I read them, but honestly, this is kind of what I said in general. Like I just enjoyed this, and if you like book 1, you'll continue to like this series. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that in my brain. That's everything I read, but I also DNF'd 3 books. I DNF'd Exquisite Rune. I just felt like this was so boring, no substance, was very smut heavy, and had no real plot. It's just 2 people fighting constantly and was very repetitive. I DNF'd This Vicious Oath. I just felt like I was bored in this one. I really liked some of the representation, but I didn't feel like their relationship was holding on to me. It was again very like smut forward. They have sex on paper very early on, which just is not my preferred romantasy. I prefer a slow burn. And then I DNF'd Bury Your Bones. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I hated one POV, liked the other, but just couldn't find a plot thread. Like it was very much just like watching her life unfold, and I needed more of like a storyline, a plot to just like follow me through. So those were my DNFs. I quickly do want to go over what I read in October. I only read 4 books. The first one was a 4-star, and that was Rachel Harrison's Play Nice. I could honestly probably up this to a 5-star now that I've thought on it. I really did enjoy this one. We're following our main character. They grew up in a house that was haunted, and in her adult years, she hasn't really thought about this house at all, but when her mother dies, the house gets passed down to her and her sisters, and she takes it on herself to go there and like renovate it. This had a lot of good like metaphors in it for your trauma and stuff. I love stories like this where like a house and like a demon is like representation of something more and something deeper. I just like really did enjoy this. If you like Black Sheep by this author, it has some of the more humor and style of that one. And then if you like The September House, it has some of those like more like metaphorical themes in my opinion. So I really did enjoy this. And it actually might be my favorite Rachel Harrison. I'm torn between this and Black Sheep, what I like more. I read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I have nothing to say about this one. I give it 3 stars. Honestly, everything I want to say has like slipped slipped my brain about this. I remember liking the style of the story, but not necessarily the style of the audiobook, and I just remember kind of being let down by like the horror aspects of this. I was never like scared. I read Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver, 3 stars, felt similar. I liked this a lot more than I liked Butcher and Blackbird. I feel like I vibed with the romance a lot more, but I just prefer a marriage of convenience than whatever Butcher and Blackbird was, and like the jumping in Butcher and Blackbird I just like kind of struggled with. I will continue to read the series when I have time, but it's not something that I'm absolutely obsessed with the way other people are. And then I read To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast, which I gave 4 stars. I really did enjoy this. It's like a dystopian romance. I feel like if you liked Silver Elite but you wanted a little bit more social commentary, you will enjoy this one. It definitely has the vibes of romantasy in the way of like pacing and just like general concept and plot points. There is no like magic or anything in this. It's fully dystopian technically. This follows our world where every crime has the same punishment. You're sent to a prison where the rich can pay to hunt you, and you have to like survive the hunts. You'll literally die if they're trying to kill you for money and sport, which the commentary on that in general is just incredible in my opinion. Then we follow our main character whose brother is sent to this prison, and so she gets herself arrested and goes to this prison in order to save him. And there is a guard relationship that happens between this, and I really enjoyed this. I think the romance for me is where I struggled the most in the story. I didn't like absolutely think the romance was incredible, but also I kept comparing this to Silver Elite. If I had read this before Silver Elite, 5 stars very, very, very easily, but I really did keep comparing them as I read it. But this was unputdownable. Like, I read it in one sitting, and I think so many people are going to give it 5 stars, like literally so many people. So happy that I got to read this one. I don't think I DNF'd anything in October. I literally think I just read those 4 books. So there's my wrap up for October and November. Let me know what your favorite book of November was. Mine was clearly The Merge. If you'd like to keep watching my channel, I'm gonna leave my Goodreads video and my unsubscribe my wallet video on the screen, since those are what I talked about in this video. And then if you'd like to just leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me an apple emoji, and have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.